Welcome to Best Life 30, your 30-day journey to creating the best life possible for yourself. You can just watch this video, or if you want to sign up for the whole series and get the free bonus companion worksheets that go with this video, check the link in the description below. All right, today is day 14, and we're going to learn how you can overcome failure.
You cannot invent and pioneer if you cannot accept failure. To invent, you need to experiment. And if you know in advance that it's going to work, it is not an experiment. And so that's a very important thing. They are inseparable twins, failure and invention. And so you have to be willing to do that. And it's embarrassing to fail. It's always embarrassing to fail. But you have to say, no, that's not how this works. If I said to you, you have a 10% chance with a particular decision, a 10% chance of a 100x return, you should take that bet every time. But you're still going to be wrong 9 out of 10 times. And it's going to feel bad 9 out of 10 times. And with technology, the outcomes, the results can be very long-tailed. The payoff can be very asymmetric, which is why you should do so much experimentation. Everybody knows that if you swing for the fences, you hit more home runs, but you also strike out more. But with the baseball, that analogy doesn't go far enough, because with baseball, no matter how well you connect with the ball, you can only get 4 runs. The success is capped at 4 runs. But in business, every once in a while, you step up to the plate and you hit the ball so hard, you get 1,000 runs. And so when you have that kind of asymmetric payoff, and one at bat can get you 1,000 runs, it encourages you to experiment more. It's the right business decision to experiment more. It's also better for your customers. Customers like the successful experiments.
Failure is part of life. I mean, the difference for me, though, is I look at failure as a stepping stone to success. It's a speed bump. I know I'm going to fail, but it's not failure if you learn something. And so, gosh, I've made so many mistakes. I've screwed so many things up, but every time I do, it becomes a way for me to explain to someone else what it takes. It's like, here's what I've done. I think I have the ability to influence people because I talk about my failures. I talk about all the things that mess me up, but I show people that I didn't let it stop me, and you don't let it stop you. And I think that's really the secret in that area.
And if everything you touch was successful, you probably won't be able to relate to people as much.
No, you'll be relate, and also it's be total bullshit, and everyone knows it's bullshit. And also you'd be bored silly. Right. I mean, think about it. If you just said, I want this and it happened, I want this and it happened, people don't value what they don't fight for. It's like you see kids sometimes your parents will say, you're not going to value this if you don't work for it. And your kid going, I'll value it, just give it to me, right? But it's true. Yeah. The things we've worked the hardest for, we value the most. Yeah. So I think, the purpose of a goal is not getting it anyway. The purpose of a goal, is who you become. Who you become is going to make you happy, or it's going to make you sad. Yeah. So I'm not looking for an effortless approach. Sure. There's no such thing.
What was your biggest failure, and how did it change you?
I have to really think hard about that. Failure. Never heard of it.
There's your answer.
Well, there's a ton of failures along the way, that's for sure. Like I said, as I said, for SpaceX, the first 3 launches failed. And we're just barely able to scrape together enough parts and money to do the 4th launch. If that 4th launch had failed, we would have been dead. So multiple failures along the way. I tried very hard to get the right expertise in for SpaceX. I tried hard to find a great chief engineer for the rocket, but the good chief engineers wouldn't join, and the bad ones, well, there was no point in hiring them. So I ended up being chief engineer of the rocket. So if I could have found somebody better, then we would have maybe had less than 3 failures.
How do you turn failure into a plus? And it's true. When I was at the University of Nebraska, one day I was reading the Daily Nebraskan, and it said in room 300 or something, at 3 o'clock there will be this panel of 3 professors here at the university, and they're going to award the Nathan Gold Scholarship. I don't know whether you still have that around? And at the time, it said it would give you $500 to go to the graduate school of your choice. I don't know whether it's changed in amount, but that was it. So I read this, and I went there to this room at 3 o'clock that day, or whatever it was, and I walked in the room, and there were the professors, and I was the only student that showed up. I mean, it really got to them. I mean, they were stuck. They kept waiting and looking at their watch and hoping there'd be more candidates, but no one came in. So I won $500 by default, and those are usually my biggest triumphs when nobody else shows up. And so here I was. I had $500 to go toward it wasn't limited as any graduate school for a master's degree. So I applied to Harvard. My dad wanted me to, and I shortly heard from Harvard, and they said go to Chicago and meet this fellow who interviews applicants from the Midwest. So I got on the train, and that's what you did in those days, and I spent about 10 hours on the Burlington going to Chicago. Then I transferred to another little interurban train to go up to this country day school where this fellow was the headmaster, and he was the big interviewer for Harvard. And I got there, and after about 10 minutes, he said, better think about something else. He come back later on. I was 19 at the time, and I looked about 12, and I acted about 8. So it was not a great combination. So he said, forget it. So I took the little interurban train back to Chicago, and I took the 10-hour train back to Omaha, and all the time I'm thinking, what do I tell my parents? It's kind of embarrassing. But it was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. Because if I'd gone to Harvard, I would have gone to a 2-year business school. I instead applied to Columbia, where I could graduate in 1 year and get a master's degree. Luckily, that by the accident of it and being in the Nebraska National Guard, which did not get called up for the Korean War, I missed going in the Korean War. I got to meet Ben Graham, which had an enormous effect on me subsequently. And I probably got my wife that way because she was going to Northwestern. And I was able to put on sort of a full court press because I got out in 1 year. And otherwise, she'd have met some other guy. I mean, I got her before the competition showed up. And so it worked out wonderfully. It couldn't have worked out better. And that's been my life, basically. I mean, things, you will get some disappointments, but the future is what counts. It'd be fun if I knew every decision I was going to make was going to be perfect. It would not be as much fun. It'd be like playing golf and knowing you're going to hit a hole-in-one on every hole. You wouldn't play golf if every time you got on a tee, you just took a swing and the ball ended up in the hole. It'd be fun for a few days. You get on TV, but the game would not be any fun. So it's failure, and I wouldn't even consider them failures, but they're mistakes or whatever you want to call it. They're part of the game, and in the end, you go on, and we've made plenty of mistakes in business. We'll make plenty more, and the Babe Ruth, and for a long time, it subsequently got eclipsed by a few fellows, but he held the record for strikeouts. Also held the record for home runs and was the highest paid baseball player until the modern era came along. So it's part of the game. If you take big swings, you're going to miss sometimes.
Most people who are failing are trying their ass off.
Yep.
Most people who are failing are being criticized by people who haven't attempted what you're even trying to fail at. So what I'm failing at, so after I did 2,500 pull-ups my first time going for the record.
Yep.
You know how many people were criticizing me?
People sitting there eating chips on the couch.
Can't even do a pull-up.
Exactly.
Look at your audience who's criticizing you, first of all.
Yep.
They're not even in your world.
Yes.
You don't even talk to me.
Yep.
Block them out. That's the first thing.
Yep.
The second thing is through failure, you get all the answers.
You get all the lessons.
All of them.
Yes.
They're all there.
Yes.
So I was able to go back through and say, okay, this happened, this was wrong, this was wrong, this is wrong. So I don't even look at failure I don't even call it failure.
Yeah.
I don't, because I don't look at it like, oh my God, I failed. No, I look at, okay, like trying to invent the light bulb. I'm afraid to know what's failure. I'm trying to invent a f***ing light bulb.
Yeah.
I'm trying to break 4,020 pull-ups. That's failure?
Yeah.
Anything you do along that way is amazing.
Growing up, my dad used to encourage my brother and me to fail. So at the dinner table, he would actually ask us, what did you fail at this week? And if we didn't have something to tell him, he would actually be disappointed. And I can remember coming home from school and being like, Dad, I tried out for this and I was horrible. And he'd be like, way to go, and high-five me. And it was such a gift what he was doing. I didn't realize it at the time, but he was redefining failure for me. And so failure became not about the outcome, but about not trying. And so, the fear of failure, as we all know as entrepreneurs, is one of the greatest fears in life. It's one of the things that stops us in our tracks and keeps us from trying something. And so I incorporate that in my philosophy at Spanx. We celebrate failures, we talk about them. We have oops meetings where I'll announce the oops that I have, and sometimes we have fun with it. We'll even attach theme songs to our oops and we'll play them in front of the whole company. But I think it's just so important to try to get the people that you work with to take risks and to be entrepreneurial and not live in a place of, I want to protect my job and feel like I'm not safe if I make mistakes.
Tell us about failure and why it's important to fail.
I love it.
Yeah, because you mentioned that you love it.
I love it. I like micro failure. I hate macro failure. Like, death of your business is bad. But to me, you know what's funny? I'll use a boxing analogy. My favorite boxing, I watch a lot of boxing. I think boxing is a very interesting, and I'm super into mixed martial arts, but I grew up on boxing. I understand it better. And I like watching it because there's so many things that happen in boxing. First of all, what I love about boxing is there's nowhere to hide. It's super interesting, right? There's nowhere to hide. Number two, there's a scenario in boxing that I love the most. For some reason, there's nothing more interesting to me than watching somebody get knocked down in the first round and then go on to win the fight easily. It's an interesting psyche, right? And I like that, and this is what I'm thinking about it, which is like, here's what's bad in boxing and in business. Going into a fight, getting knocked the f*** out in the first round and losing the match. Bad. Getting knocked down and then having the adversity to readjust to what you got caught on and navigating it to easily win a fight is remarkable. That's how I think about entrepreneurship. The reason so many people struggle with entrepreneurship is you have micro failures almost daily. And they're very in your face. You can't hide. And I like that. I like failure because I think I deserve it. I hate when people don't respect the game. When I fail, it means I f***ed up. And I like that because I think people get audacious. My number one thing that I hate about capitalism is that people use it and they love it and they're big capitalists and they love open market and competition and all that. And then they become 73 and they try to use all their money to protect their money. They're not willing to let a young lion eat them the way they ate somebody else. I hate when they try to manipulate it. That's what I love about sports. What I love about sports is when you're 36 and you were once the best player in the league, but now you're getting a little bit older and your body breaks down, you are forced to retire. The one thing that entrepreneurship and capitalism has to adjust to is once you get old and you're tired and you want to be on a yacht instead of working your shit, you should lose some money because you're losing.
When you think about your risk tolerance for failure, how far are you willing to fail?
Well, I mean, unfortunately and fortunately, I failed quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I understand that's actually part of the process of succeeding. I'm not one that really believe in failure. I believe you have setbacks. And, you have to learn from those. You have to learn what are those landmines that can be avoided the next time. What are those pitfalls? And you have to learn from that stuff. And so, I welcome those things. It's a part of life.
But are you prepared to, really fail at something totally new? What if you're just a shitty VC?
Then I'm a shitty VC,
yeah.
And then I work at it, and then I'm not a shitty VC the next year, or, whenever it happens.
Yeah.
Listen, my first year in the league on national TV, 18 years old, I shot 5 straight air balls in the playoffs in front of millions of people.
Yeah.
I think my tolerance is pretty high.
Yeah.
I think I'm all right.
With respect to failure, it's terrible. But but necessary. If you are going to try something hard, if you're putting yourself out there in some way, there are going to be times where you screw up or you don't succeed. Or there are times where you do everything right and you still don't succeed. But that's not just true of politics or running a non-for-profit. That's true. Some of you talked about being entrepreneurial. If you're starting a clothing line, that's a cutthroat business. I'm sure I have every confidence, Ayanna, that you're going to succeed at some point, but you'll go through some failures. And I think that the most important thing, and this is a little bit of a cliche, but sometimes cliches are true, is to learn from those failures and to have a sense of resilience and be able to examine what is it that I did not succeed at, why didn't I succeed, and what do I need to do better. If you're focused on giving of yourself to accomplish something, then even when you fail at a particular objective, you're still succeeding in learning about how you can accomplish those goals.
You think about fear of failure, what it really is an illusion. It doesn't exist. Because even if you fail at something, you still learn something from it. Right? No one could take that experience away from you. So a lot of that is this mental bullshit that we have, that we are so afraid, oh, I don't know, what if it doesn't work, right? That's not a very empowering question, right? What if I don't know, how would people think of me, right? What if I lose money, right? What if my business doesn't take off? Like a lot of what ifs, and the reality is most of those things don't actually happen. It's this programming, this belief that we have, that we don't believe that it's gonna work. And guess what? If you don't believe it's gonna work, what happens? It doesn't work.
I think there's like a thin film of terror wrapped around us. And so if it's not, I'm not safe enough, or I'm not secure enough, it's I'm not liked enough, I'm not promoted enough, I'm not loved enough.
I don't have enough.
I don't have enough.
I am not enough.
At the very bottom,
yeah,
I'm not enough.
Yeah. Whoa, that's big, 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 big. Somebody ring some bells. We need some bells to ring on this show. But that's big.
That's it. And so guess what the number one casualty is of a scarcity culture?
What?
Vulnerability.
We shut down.
We shut down.
Because I'm not going to let you know.
No, because I'm already scared.
I'm not
right.
all together.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing is that people are like, oh, well, we lose a little vulnerability. But vulnerability is not just about fear and grief and disappointment. It's the birthplace of everything we're hungry for.
Creativity.
Joy, creativity, faith, love.
Innovation and all of that, yes.
And the whole thing is there is no innovation and creativity without failure. Period.
So you got to be open enough to take the risk to fail.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of failing your way to success? Think about that for a moment. Do you know that anyone that enjoys any kind of success feels their way there? That's right, they do. I want you to think of this for a moment. See this little light here? Someone gave me this as a gift. This is a replica of the light that Edison built. And you know, he spent a long time before he got this thing to glow. He really did. And he started off because he had an image of it in his mind. That every time he tried, he failed. And he failed 3,000 times, it's been said. Now, I've never really talked to Edison, so I don't know if that's accurate, but I have an idea it is. 3,000 failures. Now, a reporter asked him one time how he felt about failing 3,000 times. He said, I didn't fail 3,000 times. He's there with 3,000 steps to get to where I'm going. You know, if I were to tell you all the sad stories about it's got me to where I am, I would really spoil your week. And there's been some real sad stories. I think it might even make me cry again. But I've had so many failures that I wouldn't even want to guess at it. I've blown everything I had 3 different times. I never let it bother me much. And you know, I have found that Every time I failed, I moved closer to the goal. You see, if you knew how to do it now, you'd be going sideways. When you're going after a goal, you're going ahead. And because you're going where you've never been, you're going to make mistakes. You don't know it all. You have perfection within you, and the objective of life is to bring that perfection to the surface. That's exactly what this guy did. Well, you're going to make a lot of mistakes bringing that to the surface. Those mistakes are steps to where you're going. I often tell salespeople that are afraid to make a call just to get out there and make a call. And their objective isn't to sell. Their objective is just make the call. If you make the call and you're afraid and you do it, you're successful. You've accomplished what you want to do. You made a call. And after you get comfortable making those calls, then you can start to polish up your presentation, and odds are pretty good you'll start making sales. And if you keep polishing up your presentation and working at getting better, you're going to master a thing called selling. But if you think that you're going to enjoy great success and it's just one win after another, you're kidding yourself. It just doesn't happen. I don't even know anyone that's pulled that kind of a deal off. If they did, they were cheating or lying.
Deciding to make that iPod movie, which was really stupid and not a great movie, that was one of these defining moments. And when that guy, his name's Tom Scott, he's a brilliant entrepreneur, when he turned to me and said, is there something bigger you want to do? That was one of those moments. And what we pitched him was this. It was like, hey, why don't you just bankroll us, cover all of our expenses for a year, and let us make a bunch of little movies? Is that not the dream right there? But he seemed amenable. I mean, this is a guy who was offering us a huge opportunity after we had done nothing but delivered on something that was nothing like what he hired us for. So it was like, maybe I want to take a chance. And he said, sure, let's do it. By the way, him bankrolling us for a year was very, very little amount of money. It was literally just enough so we wouldn't have to worry about rent. We're not talking about millions of dollars here. It was something small. And what we did then was all we knew how to do, which was make these tiny little movies. And this is 2007. But now in 2018, I would describe them as essentially YouTube movies. Like, that's what we were doing, but we didn't know what they were. It was just the only thing we knew how to do. So we made these little videos, and he would come once a month and check on us just to make sure we weren't completely blowing off this huge deal that we made with him. And he loved the content. And about 6 months in, he walked into our office with this like very smart, big deal movie producer. And it was like nerve-wracking. Her name was Christine Vachon, by the way. She's an Oscar award-winning producer. She's an incredible, just like brilliant mind in the world. And she watched the content. And I remember she like didn't say anything, which is like the worst thing somebody can do. You know, if somebody's like, oh, this sucks, you're like, maybe I'll try harder. And if somebody's like, this is great, you're like, yeah, high five, like that. But if someone says nothing is the scariest thing. And she said nothing. And then when it was over, she turned and looked at us and she goes, I think that was very good. But wait, let's perspective. She didn't say, I think that was very good. She said, I think that was very good. Like she wasn't, it was more like, what the hell did I just watch? And she came back to us and she gave us this piece of advice. She was like, take all of those little movies and figure out how to put them together in a consumable way. Like, make it so you can actually watch them. And we're like, okay. So that's exactly what we did. We took all these little pieces of a movie. We made them 20 minutes long. We put an intro at the beginning and we put credits at the end. And then we were like, this is now a TV show. You laugh, and so did every single TV network we brought it to. I remember one network was like, if you don't find anywhere else to put it, we'll put it on our website. And that was like the most painful thing to hear. It was like, defeat. But that woman, Christine Vachon, she showed it to HBO. And I remember her calling and we were like, hey, how'd the meeting go? And she said they liked it. And I just remember I was like, she's a restrained woman. That has to mean something. They liked it. And at the end, HBO bought that show for like a couple $1 million. And that was like the big break. That was our big success. Don't applaud. That was our big success. You guys weren't going to applaud anyways. But we had done it. Like, that was it. That was the victory. It was 2008. Like, climb on top of the mountaintop. Like, we did it. And then nothing happened. Like, they sat on the show for 2 years. And when it finally aired 2 years later, they played it on a Friday night at midnight. Can you imagine what this audience size would be like if my videos were only watchable at midnight on Friday nights? It'd be me and that guy with the phone. That's it. just the two of us. And it was a failure. Like, it got cool reviews. People were like, this is an interesting concept. No one watched it. And that was crushing. That was heartbreaking. And it was in the ashes of that I was like, I'm just going to do this on YouTube. I'm just going to do this on YouTube. And I think the ultimate irony is that if you go back and you watch the HBO series, you'll see it feels and looks exactly like the content that I now call a vlog. The content that does 2 million views a day, every single day. It's the same thing.
So often, you don't move forward because you're keeping such score from what didn't work in the past. You are holding yourself hostage to 1997 to 2005. You're holding yourself hostage in love to that past relationship that didn't work. Or you're holding yourself in hostage in business to the money that you may have thought you wasted or the deal that went bad. And so one of the ways that I give myself permission on two levels. Permission to have lived a life that has some beautiful experiences and some really tangy lessons. I mean, they're spicy, they hurt, they're painful. When I give myself permission to have had that, I also give myself permission to keep leaping. Give myself permission to keep dreaming. Give myself permission to keep learning how to get it right. Learning how to love the unlovable, forgive what seems to be the unforgivable, to leap again. Even while I still have a bandage on my chin from the last time I fell, I still get to leap. So I want to invite you. If you fall, fall. Catch your breath. Put a bandage on it. Whether you fail financially, you fail physically with health and wellness, you fail spiritually, you fail emotionally, you failed in a relationship, okay. A part of flying is understanding what the distinction between flying and falling. And the only way you understand the distinction is that you experience full life. When you experience full life, it's like this. Life isn't just flat line. It's not just like this. You make your heights feel better because you understand this was a failure. And what I mean by a failure is this taught me a lesson. This stung. Every single failure has a lesson in it. To me, a failure is a lesson wrapped in some sticky, icky paper that stung, that hurt. And so give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to play big, to be nervous, to fall down, to sit down for a minute. Just don't take up real estate in the sitting down. Don't take up real estate in the analyzing. Don't take up real estate in the preparation. You've been getting prepared for a long time for something. Trust that you'll either fly if you leap right now, or you'll fall if you leap right now. And if you fly, you'll understand what soaring feels like. And if you fall, you'll understand what getting up feels like. Either way, you're okay. That's how I play big. With my knees knocking. That's how I play big, even when there's something in my consciousness reminding me of the last time I did something like this and it didn't quite work out. And I still play big because I constantly give myself permission to totally win and soar or totally fall and get up. And that way, there's nothing to truly be afraid of. Remember, this is a dialogue, not a monologue, which means we're in a dynamic conversation versus me just entertaining you.
There is no ceiling for you, really. I mean, there's nothing you can't do.
I don't think there's,
I mean,
ought
color
not be a
is not a
ceiling for anyone.
There's no ceiling because, I mean, you've proven that you can cover the whole waterfront in terms of kinds of characters, whether it's a boxer or a quadriplegic or someone who's a brilliant lawyer. The whole range of stuff, right?
You know, with the training that I had, that's the way we were trained. You know, to play any part, there's no such thing as you can't play a part. You may not be right for a particular part, but I don't think there's a part I can't attempt to play. I could at least analyze and try to break down and put a performance together. It may not be any good, but I was taught, one of the things that I was taught that sticks in my mind was a gentleman by the name of Bill Ball, who was the artistic director of the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. And he always talked about failing big. He said, if you're going to fail, fail big. And I'm like, I like that philosophy.
I do too.
You know, I'm not a fall back mentality kind of person. People would say, well, you know, you better have another career to fall back on. I'm like, I don't want to fall back on anything. If I fall, I want to fall forward. I want to see what I'm hitting.
Or if exactly right.
You know what I mean? I don't want to... I never understood that mentality.
I didn't either.
I never understood it. I'm like, I'm going that way. I
mean, if you're worried about being safe and secure, and if security is your byword, then you're never going to reach out and do anything. I don't think that's going to protect you.
That's right.
Or it's going to give you any kind of genuine satisfaction. That's right. If you're worried about that, then it's.
There was an old IQ.
In other words, if you're a sailor, you would never leave port.
Right.
You only care about security.
There was an IQ question. I think it was an IQ question where they had 9 dots.
Yeah.
And you had to connect the dots, I think, with 5 lines without lifting the pencil. The only way you could do it was to go outside the box.
Yeah.
And people sit there within it and go,
oh
man,
That's
you can't do it. Well, you can't. Nobody said you can't go outside the box.
Yeah.
In the middle of 2009, he was the software engineer that no one wanted to hire. He had 12 years of experience at Yahoo, but he was rejected by Facebook and then rejected by Twitter. He'd been to a great university. He had a great CV. But he decided to team up with one of his alumni members at Yahoo and started to create an app and focus on the startup space. In 5 years' time, he sold that app for $19 billion to Facebook. Believe it or not, that was Brian Acton, the co-founder of WhatsApp. When he was rejected from Facebook, he said it was a great opportunity to connect with some fantastic people. I look forward to life's next adventure. When he was rejected by Twitter, he responded by saying, worked out, it was quite a long commute. It's so interesting to see that someone rejected from 2 of the top internet companies actually responded with humor and actually responded with positivity. This lady was diagnosed with clinical depression. Her marriage had failed and she was jobless with a dependent child. She was on a 4-hour delayed train journey from Manchester to London when she came up with this idea, and she started to write this book about this wizard. And as she started writing, she then finished her manuscript, took it to 12 publishers and was rejected by all 12. Believe it or not, that's J.K. Rowling. This man watched his first company crumble. He was a Harvard University dropout, and his first company's demo didn't even work. He went on to build Microsoft. His name's Bill Gates. Therefore, failure is just a sign that we need to widen our scope. We need to be ready and build ourselves up for the next level. Actually, what we end up achieving is far greater than what we'd envisioned for ourselves. And this divine plan, this orchestration can't be happening without this intervention that occurs, because if we had it our way, we'd just settle, we'd just accept what we thought was our goal, what we thought we were chasing. But actually, I've noticed that when you don't get that, later down the line, you look back and you reflect and realize that what you've gained is so much greater. Failures are only failures when we don't learn from them, because when we learn from them, they become lessons, and we actually extrapolate all of these teachings and actually get more insight into how we can improve the way we work and how we can actually drive with a different energy. The challenge we have is that we only talk about people's failures when they succeed, and that's why they become this taboo, or we feel like their failures never happened. We need to share these stories earlier. We need to bring out these stories and experiences on the journey so that people who are on the journey can actually follow in those footsteps. And that's why Steve Jobs said you can't connect the dots moving forward. You only can when you're looking backwards.
Now I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're gonna enjoy, but before that, it's time for the best Life 30 questions of the day. It's not enough to just watch this video, you have to do something. So pull out your worksheets and answer these questions, and if you don't have the worksheets, you can get them for free. Check the link in the description below. All right, here we go. Question number 1. What did you learn from your failures that you can turn into a plus? Number 2, what do you want to do next but you're afraid you're gonna fail at? And number 3, how can you minimize the risk of failure and just get started? And if you are doing the Best Life 30 challenge with me, give me a hashtag BestLife30 in the comments below so I can celebrate with you. Most people don't fail enough. Most people are so afraid of a huge fail that they don't even try. You're afraid of taking a big bet, you're afraid of going into deep debt, and that fear prevents you from having the thing that matters the most right now in your business, momentum. You don't need to fail big, but you do need to start, otherwise you will never build the big business that you're capable of building. So I'm a big fan of going from idea to action. Idea to action, idea to action, idea to action. You get an idea, what do? You take action. Teach yourself, train yourself. As soon as you get that idea, don't judge it, don't think about it, don't plan and ponder and strategize, because your list of ideas is a mile long and it's not gonna get any shorter. You're a genius, you come up with great ideas. You're gonna keep coming up with ideas for the rest of your life. That list of ideas is not gonna shrink. So how do you start moving? You take action. I call it the 2% difference. Instead of planning to get to 100% for your idea, what's the 2% difference that you can just do something about right now? I think your ideas came to you for a reason. I think it's inspired. Why are you thinking about this thing? Don't judge the reason, just go off and do something. One small conversation, one small action. Start building momentum. That's the thing that's missing right now is momentum. You need more momentum. You're a genius. You have great ideas. You should be changing the world. What's missing is momentum, and I want you to find it. If you want to join the Best Life 30 Challenge for free, click the link right here below me. Or if you want more videos on how to overcome failure, check out the playlist right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.